Hi, everybody. So today, before we get into the reading, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how we found this and where this really came from. So it started when I had some sort of very faint memories of some sort of, it was maybe like a creepypasta or like a scary story or like a sleepless thread that I had read. I told my friend WX3 about this, and I had a couple details. Like, I remembered like it was in a library. There was a lot about like being alone in the dark, like in pitch darkness. Dust was like, I don't know, that was like sticking out to me. There was a lot about dust. And it was called, like a lot of those sleepless threads are called like, there was something in the library, or I found something in the library. And it may have had a reading. I remember there may have been some sort of reading of it somewhere. And it may have appeared on the creepypasta compendium. So me and WX3, we went out, we searched, we looked for stuff. He was the one who found there was like the creepypasta compendium post, just kind of went to a 404, but it was under the title of there was something in the Canisboro Public Library, and I'm like, that's it. That's what it was called. I remember being called that. And then I went on Sleepless and looked for that, and I found it, and it was it was there. It seemed to have been cross-posted there, but it got deleted from Creepypasta Compendium and then was still on Sleepless. Yeah, and then we got in contact with the writer called Deadman38 at the time. He now goes by his actual name, Emmett Shaw, and we actually got to do a little email interview with him, where I asked him a little bit about the story and what happened to it. Haven't used this in a while. Thanks for reaching out. I haven't thought about this in a pretty long time. I posted the story to Creepypasta Compendium around 2014 when I just turned 19 and started university. I'd never used Reddit before, but thought the style was kind of similar to the posts that were on the Sleepless subreddit after a friend of mine showed me it. I cross-posted it a week or so after the first upload. The compendium upload actually had a few typos that I just somehow didn't notice, and I was kind of embarrassed of it in general, so that's why I had it taken down. Sharing stuff for the first time can be tough. I'd spent a lot of time writing, especially horror, and this is one of my first times sharing work publicly. I don't really mind if you'd like to share it on your own site, just having the credit would be great. My own site right now is mostly for professional journalism stuff now, and there isn't really a great place for me to archive it. I also kind of don't think it represents my style that well anymore. Dr. Creepypasta contacted me a little before I deleted the compendium upload about doing a reading. I was a little hesitant, but went through with it, and he was pretty nice about it altogether. I think it's the only place where the compendium version of the story actually got widely shared. I'm glad people enjoyed it and wanted to find it again, but I guess I just want to keep it at arm's length away from stuff I'm doing now, lol. Feel free to do what you'd like with it. I actually have a full book coming out pretty soon called Wood Spirit. It's about American logging mythology and folktales from the early 1800s. All the best, and thank you again for reaching out. He was really nice about everything. We talked a little bit afterwards. He was also nice enough to send over the compendium upload, so now we have that original version, and the Sleepless upload is also there. It's still up. So yeah, also, please check out Wood Spirit. It sounds very interesting. I think I'm probably going to get it when it comes out. It just sounds really cool in general, so go and check that out. Give him some support. So, without further ado, we now get into the premiere reading of the formerly lost creepypasta. There's something in the Canisboro Public Library. If you want to find it, you have to go down into the basement, the much less frequented archive area where long unused books sit and wait to be rediscovered. It has a few desks with ancient metal lamps to study at, the plush chairs faded from years of use. The air is stale, the ventilation flips on with a thud every so often. I spend a good amount of time here. It's quiet in an uncomfortable way. Nice enough to focus on your work, but strange enough to want to finish as soon as possible. In the time between moments of inspiration, I'll wander the shelves and think about nothing very important, just waiting for something to jump out at me. Maybe I'll pull something off the shelf and skim it for a bit. Taking in the contextless words of random books sometimes pulls out the most interesting ideas. I was working for a small magazine at the time and spent most of my work time down here. I lived with pretty loud people and needed a place to just get stuff done. It was around 8. I had a deadline for tomorrow morning, and I knew I wouldn't be able to buckle down at home. I'd become good friends with the head librarian, an older woman finding something to do in retirement. She liked me well enough and was happy to see young people using the place for a change. She was comfortable enough with me being there that she'd often let me stay after the 9 p.m. closing time and lock things up myself. Seeing me working away, she placed the old keyring on the desk and said goodnight. I turned and thanked her as she walked back up the stairs. It was around 10 or so when I hit a dead end and got up to think for a few minutes. Zigzagging through the rows, I waited for an answer to unstick itself from my mind, flicking on some motion detection lights as I moved through the dusty shelves. I rounded the corner to a row I can't remember going down before. The buzz of the light stopped me. I looked up. It stung my eyes to even glance at it. Too much time downstairs. There was something about it, though. It hummed and buzzed quietly. It was inviting. Its age had degraded its mechanics and caused this odd sound. Not like your everyday office light, it was more resonant, somewhat choral. This was a good place to stop. Rubbing my eyes, I reach out to the shelf on my right and drag my hand across the books until something hit me. I feel over the shelf, yellowed pages and sun-bleached spines. My finger drops onto something, enough to make me open my eyes. It's shorter than some of the other books on this shelf. The paper I can feel on top is brittle. Sliding it off, it's somewhat difficult. There's a grit that holds it to the other books. It scrapes against them as I pull. Exploring hidden places. There's no author listed on the cover or front pages. There's almost no publisher information either. Inspecting it closer, it's bound sloppily. Strings of the binding spill onto the pages. The grit of the plastic feels strange in my hand. It's dirty. Running my hand over the first pages, I can feel the raised ink, like it's been typewritten. I could feel something pull at me. The words drew me in. The hum calmed me. The world operates on the assumption that for everything there is a cause. That we can find the beginning and end of all our ideas and constructions and places we visit and so forth. Everything that's been created comes from somewhere. This is the assumption we must make if we are to accept the logic of the world. While this is a common consensus for most everyone, there are things we cannot explain, that we cannot find a beginning for, or ending. While it may not appear to you outright, they are there. You just have to have the intention to find them. When I was young, I would often spend time in the forest and woods in my hometown, finding fun in the rocks and sticks and bugs that lived there. When I was older, maybe around 9, I noticed something about the way the leaves would grow. The deeper I would go, the larger the canopies on the trees became. I began to spend my days traveling deeper and deeper into the woods, spending hours just trying to get as deep as I could before the sun would go down. When I would return home, I looked over maps my father kept of the land we own and found that the distance I had traveled those days were nearly impossible, that those deep places I found would cross state lines and stretch over long-traveled paths that I would have noticed. I would fill my canteen and throw my BB gun over my shoulder and check out into the woods every day in the summer of my 10th year. I was only told to come home by sundown. I would cross the field in front of our small farmhouse, part the thin reeds of grass, and walk into the leaf-covered earth of the forest. When I looked up again, I'd walk back to the desk and sat. My computer was still open with a blinking cursor. It was 10:15, I was tired, and I could finish my work if I buckled down. There was something about the text on the page that made me want to keep reading. I missed my deadline that morning. When I walked further, it became cooler, the patches of leaves thicker. My wristwatch said 3, I'd left around 9, but the sun was almost completely gone, blocked out by the deep cover of leaves. I was cold, only wearing my work shirt and short pants. I hadn't thought it would get like this. It was dark, but the resonant glow of the sun allowed me to still see, only faintly though. The leaves were crisp and dead, unnaturally so for the season. I tried to imagine the distance I'd gone so far, but it escaped me. I stopped and looked around. I found myself in a clearing. Patches of crushed leaves lay a footpath behind me. Crouching down, I looked over the impressions. The leaves turned to dust as I had stepped over them. I pinched some and let it fall through my fingers. It formed a thin cloud that trailed back down to the earth. I stood and looked across the country. There wasn't much to see here. The leaves shifted above. A breeze cut through me. I brushed some dust from my shoes. There's a crunching of leaves up ahead. I shoot up and pull the gun around to hold it in front of me, its plastic creaking. Quiet crunches travel up the shadowed space in front of me. I squint and try to look, but my pupils are as wide as they can go. It's too dim. They stop. I turn my head and take a few steps. The wind picks up again, leaves flap quietly. A few rays are let through. I can see it. A deer stands still in the middle of the clearing, its head locked in position to face me. Its sunken eyes and thin antlers hold on me. The stock is jammed into my armpit. I'm ready to fire. We're both waiting for a movement. I bring the sight to my face. Looking closer, its form is gaunt, gray. I hadn't seen any living plants in hours. Being so deep out here, it must be subsisting on fallen leaves and what little plant life could grow. It rocks forward, bowing down. I drop the barrel down and look on. It rises, shifting onto its hind legs. Its eyes still locked on me. It's standing. It takes a shaky step towards me, then another, carefully. I drop the gun, letting it hang from the strap on my arm. I can hardly move. A few more steps. I step back. I hear another set of crunches to my right, maybe another beyond the clearing. Another few steps, these ones much more sure of themselves. I bolt. I ran harder than I ever ran in my life. I could hear galloping behind me for a few hundred feet, but it got further and further away. Clouds of dust followed me with each step. They whipped up in front of me and stung my eyes. Every breath burnt with exhaustion. It took hours for the leaves to begin to thin. I wasn't sure if I was even going in the right direction. When they finally did, I came bursting through the reeds of grass at the field and fell to the ground. My mother ran out of the house and carried me in. My father was beyond angry. They all thought I was lost or worse. They asked me where I was. I was still trying to catch my breath. Tears welled up. I really wasn't sure. My mother got some of my dinner and gave it to me. They went off to bed and I sat and ate. I noticed the clock on the stove. It was 1:15. The vent thumps to life and my train of thought is broken. Where did this come from? The binding and cover suggest a self-published novel. The story within was strange, not something majorly published. I began to skim the next chapters, trying to gather some more information. Hand-drawn maps and diagrams followed accounts from others about their own experiences. I grabbed my legal pad from my bag and began to jot down more information. The map drawn on the end of the first chapter seemed kind of familiar. I grab the keyring and walk over to the exit door, where a small directory is hung on the wall. To the left is the town archival room, where they keep plot maps and information about land ownership. I round the corner. The lights are off. A series of switches on the wall. I flick the first one, and the small office and file cabinets are now visible. A desk with an adjustable magnifying glass and chairs sit alongside a row of filing cabinets. Sometimes lawyers and their clients will come down here working on some kind of dispute over lawns with a neighbor, but for the most part this side goes unused. I slide the key into the lock of the office and boot up the beige computer to search the records. The map in the book looked like a map I'd seen of the local national park. The dust from the keyboard stuck to my fingers as I typed. Cabinet G8, drawer 3, under W. The drawers that I could see only went up to C. I flick on the next light switch. Rows of cabinets and shelves appear from the dark. I start to move over to them, but I notice something. There's still a section in the dark that's just barely becoming visible in the rest of the light. I hit the next switch. The same thing. It continues. I haven't hit the wall yet. I'm also out of switches. I walk down to the new section, looking into the dark space that is yet to be revealed. More rows of shelving and cabinets. I cough. There's a noticeable miasma of dust. I trail the wall, passing more books and poster tubes, carefully organized shelves of reference books, encyclopedia collections, binders of tax records, and budget reform notices. Lights flicker, showing their age. The smell is intense, like an attic in the summer. I find a new series of switches along the wall. These ones older, made of copper or brass. They're heavy and snap on. The rows of fluorescent lights click and shudder to life. More rows of shelves. I move into the central path and look out. Darkness at the far end. I go back to the wall and see the next set of switches ahead. The carpet is matted, it's blue, almost faded to gray. The brown steel shelves stretch onward, each filled and categorized. I reach the switches. Flicking on the first one, more shelves. I reach for the next one. My eyes focus on the darkness. My finger sits on the switch. I stare into it. Something peeks out from a shadow. A shoe. I step closer. Arms, holding something close under the right arm. A face, the darkest. It's turned away from me, looking deeply into the shelf in front of it. I move closer, dropping my hand to my side. It scans the shelf from top to bottom, crouching down. I want to call out, but I don't. My shoes scrape against the carpet. A board underneath shifts. It takes a book from under its arm and places it on the shelf. I step closer, approaching the threshold of the darkness. Looks like a middle-aged man, light hair and pale skin. The lights make no noise. He glances over to me. Make sure to turn out the lights when you leave. He stands, taller than I thought he would be. I step closer. He walks off into the darkness. I'm left standing there alone. Hesitantly, I move into the dark. What's left of the overhead lights guide my path for a few feet before my vision fades. Patches shift and move as my eyes begin to make sense of the lightless environment. My ears ring in the quiet. Soft footsteps, the only thing I can hear. I place my hand on the wall and feel along it as I take cautious steps. I fumble for my lighter in my pocket. Sparks fly and fizzle out with no flame. I keep walking, my eyes still trying to adjust. The paint is textured yet smooth. It finally catches. It's faint, but the short flame gives me some leeway in the dark. The shelves are empty, but they stretch on from what I can see. I want to turn my head and look back into the light, but I continue onwards. I follow the footsteps. They make short outlines on the carpet. I can hardly think. I can only focus on the space in front of me. The steps get further and further away. The print's thinner and harder to read. It's silent again. I hold my arm out and try to get a better impression of the space. The flame bounces off the metallic shelves and glows softly. I look down the aisle to my left. Barren shelves with scattered books and loose papers on the floor. The fluorescent light of the library, a speck in my eye. I'd walked much farther than I thought. Something fills the silence. Steps, different this time. Just beyond the light of the flame, something is coming closer. The flame starts to sputter. Just under the threshold of the light, bare feet, then legs. They stop. The blue flame gives off less light. I can't see above the knee. The flame goes out. The steps start again. My eyes shift in their sockets. I recoil backwards and fall, stumbling back to my feet and starting to run. Bare skin on carpet, running. The speck of light doesn't get any larger. I push as hard as I can, and the thing makes no noise. My mouth fills with spit. My stomps rattle the hollow metal shelves. The darkness will subsist. I throw the empty lighter over my shoulder. It clutters to the ground ineffectively. I can hear another set of steps from ahead. I pass them and they shoot across the aisle. Both sets stop, but I don't turn. I just keep going. Light is still far from my face, but it's getting closer. The outline of the shelves come into focus. My pupils begin to shrink. I come into the light and stop, only for a moment, though. The click of the switch rings out. They've been going out in sequence. I'm back in the darkness. I take soft steps and try to find the wall. Cool paint with a film of dust. I can feel more dust swirling around my face. I can't help but cough. Slow steps. Flesh on linoleum tile. I feel around for the switch, trailing to where I think the corner will be. The steps are closer. I hit the switch. The cabinets and desk are visible again. Dust floats around like flies. There's nothing here. I look on, waiting for something to jump out at me. Nothing does. I peer into the threshold of the dark. The faint outlines warp and change as my brain tries to make something of nothing. Was there actually something standing just beyond the light? Or were my eyes mistaken? I go back and collect my bag. I take the book with me. I step out the front door into the cool of October. The lock clicks shut, and I place the key underneath the loose brick by the staircase. I'm covered in dust. The smell sticks to the inside of my mouth. I look up. The sun is just coming out. Whatever's down there wants to be forgotten, and I don't think I'll deny it that request.